If this is your first time seeing me, hello, my name is Amanda. I'm an evil VTuber and possibly the world's biggest Blue Exorcist fan. After 6 years, Blue Exorcist has finally been confirmed for a third season. Now, if you're not like me, who has been religiously following the manga and obsessively rewatching the anime, you might need a bit of a refresher before this season drops. So today, I'm here to give you the rundown on what Blue Exorcist is, the order that it goes in, what happens in it, and what to expect in the long-awaited third season. So, without any further introduction, I present to you everything you need to know before Blue Exorcist Season 3. Obviously, we need to begin where it all began, in the manga. So the manga is written by Kazue Kato-sama, our Lord and Savior. She published Blue Exorcist, or Ao no Exorcist, in Shonen Jump in 2009. And despite its frequent hiatuses, as of August 2023, it has 29 volumes. And it is still going. Just so you guys know, the manga is still ongoing, which is interesting. So that's where it all began, with Kato-sama right here. This is the cover of Volume 1. It's very beautiful. We love it. What's up with the Blue Exorcist anime? Like, what's up with it? Why is it so weird? Why does no one know what order to watch it in? Why does it randomly retcon itself? Well, the Blue Exorcist anime exists in 3 parts. The first being Season 1 in 2010, which you might notice that 2010, the year that Season 1 of Blue Exorcist, the anime, was announced, is only 1 year into the run of the manga. So due to this production timeline, Season 1 contains a lot of filler episodes, which are inspired by manga storylines, but not really adaptations of them. And the Kyoto arc is omitted from Season 1, as it was just beginning in the manga while the anime was being produced. So this is in bold, because it's very, very important. This is the number one thing I need you to understand. Episodes 17 to 25 of Season 1 are original to the anime and are non-canon. They made up this ending. We are not going to talk about episodes 17 to 25. We are not going to be talking about any non-canon material in this presentation. So, erase these from your mind. Episode 17 to 25 is not real, and it can't hurt you. Blue Exorcist, the movie from 2012, takes place at some ambiguous time during Season 1. Its story is original, and it's kind of fun filler, but it is also considered non-canon, and it's also very irrelevant, so I just think it's a good time, but it is not canon. Alright, here's the big one. 2017's Kyoto Saga. Season 2 is called the Kyoto Saga, and it takes place before the ending of Season 1. So Season 2 actually takes place after Episode 16 of Season 1. It's essential in setting up for Season 3, and it contains basically no filler. So when we get into the plot summary, this is going to be intense, because it is plot heavy. So, now that you have a good understanding of how the anime works, this is your warning to go watch it on your own in this order, if you would like to not be spoiled by me. But if you choose to stick around, let's talk plot. The plot. We are going to go through the plot, and I will show you what I have set up for this presentation. So, each slide is an episode, and I have included major characters as they are introduced in these little circles. So, if a character does not have a little circle, it means they're not that important. It doesn't mean I don't like them, it just means they're not that important. And each episode, this isn't necessarily their first appearance, but it's when they first become relevant. Season 1, Episode 1, The Devil Resides in Human Souls. So twin brothers Rin and Yukio Okumura live with their adopted father, Shiro Fujimoto, in a monastery. And Rin is basically like a punk dropout. He dropped out of middle school. He's crazy like that. He dropped out of middle school. He likes to fight. He's skipping school. He's a punk boy, alright? He is a no good boy. He's a no good boy. And Yukio is the opposite. He's the honor student. He's got good grades. He's got glasses. He's going to an elite prep school. So when the show starts, Yukio is preparing to go away to like this really elite school, and Rin is just bumming around being a dropout. So after Rin gets in a fight with this guy, he starts seeing these mysterious creatures that only he can see. And then this bully attacks him again, but this time he's possessed by a demon. And he attacks him, and this is no ordinary fight. This man is going to kill him. So that is when Rin manifests the power of the blue flame. He, like, fucking lights on fire. It's crazy town. His survival instincts kick in, and this man is on fire. And then, so after seeing this, the demon possessing his bully tries to take Rin to Gehenna, which, in the Blue Exorcist universe, the world of the living is called Asya, and the world of demons is called Gehenna. It's basically hell, and he's like, alright, it's time, you're the king of the demons, we gotta take you to hell. He decides to take him to hell. Then Father Fujimoto appears, our king, and he banishes the demon with an exorcism, and he tells Rin, you're not a human, you're a demon, and you're not just any demon, you are the son of Satan. And that is where episode 1 ends. So a lot going down in episode 1. We have Rin and Yukio and their dad, Father Fujimoto. Rin is the son of Satan. He did not know this, but now he knows. It's important. Episode 2 is called The Gehenna Gate. So Father Fujimoto takes Rin to the basement of the monastery, and he gives him this, Kurikara. This is very important. It's also called the Koma Sword. And it is sealing Rin's demonic power. He says, Rin, you can never draw this sword because it will summon your demonic power and you'll be a demon forever. You, like, can't do that. And he also tells him that Yukio doesn't have any demon powers. Yukio is just a guy. Yukio's just chilling. So then, the demon that they banished earlier chases Rin to the monastery, and Fujimoto and the other exorcists fight it off, and Rin is supposed to escape. They tell Rin to escape, but Rin does not escape. Instead, he gets in a fight with his dad, and is like, you just want me to run, you're not my real dad. He literally hits him with the you're not my real dad line. Yeah, it's bad all around. They get in a big fight. And then suddenly, Shiro gets possessed by Satan. This episode escalates really quickly. Shiro gets possessed by Satan. And then he summons the Gehenna Gate, which is just a big CGI gate that's gonna take Rin to Gehenna. And he starts sucking him down in there. And then Father Fujimoto, for just a moment, he regains control of his body and kills himself in order to kill, or to get Satan to release Rin from the Gehenna Gate. But Rin is already in the gate. He's, like, sinking into the gate, you know, he's, like, going in there. And he can't escape, and Father Fujimoto is dead. So he pulls the Koma Sword and becomes a demon. And then he cries because his dad is dead. Sorry, I didn't mean to laugh, but he does cry. This image of Rin crying has kind of become a meme, but yeah. And also he has a tail now. That's just part of it. It's just part of the lore, don't worry about it. Father Fujimoto is dead, and Rin is a demon. Yukio was not there during this, he was somewhere else. Episode 3, Brothers. I also included these little pictures to indicate to you the important places and also important lore things. So they go to True Cross Academy, and that is where most of this takes place. It's the most important setting. So at Father Fujimoto's funeral, Rin swears revenge on Satan. He said he is going to kill Satan. Or in the English dub, he says he is going to beat the shit out of Satan, which is very funny. So he has Father Fujimoto's phone, which only has one number in it. It's Mephistopheles, pronounced Mephistopheles, not Mephistopheles. It's two names, Mephistopheles. And so Mephisto shows up, and he says Rin and Yukio are both going to True Cross Academy, which is like a really elite prep school. But secretly, part of the prep school is Exorcist School. So he goes to Cram School, which is the Exorcist School. It's run by an organization called the Knights of the True Cross, who are in charge of all the shit. They're in charge of everything. They're in charge of all the exorcism. So Rin shows up to his first day of exorcism class, and who is the teacher? It's Yukio. And he is very surprised, because he thought Yukio didn't know about any of this, but Yukio was actually literally his teacher. And Yukio tells him that he's been actually studying exorcism since he was 7. So Yukio has known about demons way longer than Rin. And then so Rin confronts Yukio, they have a fight. It looks like they're gonna, like, fight each other physically, but they don't. And then Yukio agrees to train Rin as an exorcist. Also, this is kind of important, but Rin and Yukio live alone in this abandoned dorm building. There's no one in this building except for them, so a lot of shit goes down in this building just because it's a big empty building. Yukio has known about demons for a super long time. He knew about Rin. Rin's kind of pissed about it, but he just embraces it. He just says it's okay. Okay, episode 4 is called The Garden of Amahara. It introduces Shiemi Moriyama, who is kind of our female lead / maybe love interest, question mark. She's kind of our girl of the trio. So Rin and Yukio visit Shiemi. She's very sheltered, very shy, and she works and lives at her family's shop, which sells herbs and plants to exorcists. But she's actually being possessed by a demon in her garden. It's this, like, flower thing, you know? So then Rin and Yukio work together to exorcise the demon, and Shiemi decides to enroll in exorcist school. And she's very attached to Rin now. She is about that Rin life. She really wants Rin to like her. But she already knew Yukio. I didn't include that in my bullet points, sorry. She already knew Yukio, and now she has met Rin, and she really likes Rin, and they save her from a demon. That's about all that happens in this episode. The most important thing is just that Shiemi is at the school now. She's a very important character. Okay, episode 5 is called A Boy from the Cursed Temple. It's about Rin's boyfriend, Ryuji. That's the only time I'm gonna say that. So Rin is fighting with his overachieving classmate, Ryuji Suguro. I've included all 3 of them here, Ryuji Suguro, Renzo Shima, and Kanekamaru Miwa. They're from Kyoto, and they're, like, childhood friends. They're basically brothers. They're always in a trio, they're always together. They just hang out there. So Rin learns that Ryuji shares the same goal of becoming an exorcist in order to defeat Satan. And he's like, that's so weird, why would Ryuji specifically want to defeat Satan? So this is the most important piece of lore we get from this episode. We learn about the Blue Night. So the Blue Night occurred 16 years ago. And that is when, simultaneously, a whole bunch of high-ranking clergymen and exorcists, including Shima and Kanekamaru's family, who are high-ranking Shinto priests, were simultaneously killed by the blue flame of Satan. They just all burst into flames on the Blue Night 16 years ago, and no one knows why, and it's bad. So that is the most important thing we learned here. Also keep in mind, important characters, Ryuji, Shima, and Konekamaru. Episode 6 is called The Phantom Chef, and this one is filler. Rin has a cook-off with a demon. It's really funny. It's a fun episode, but it is just filler. It's not really important. Okay, episode 7. That was quick. Episode 7 is called A Flock of Plovers. I don't know what a plover is. And it mainly focuses on Izumo Kamiki, who is our other female character. So Shiemi is trying really hard to be friends with Izumo, who's really antisocial. She's extremely tsundere, if I may use the word. She doesn't want to be friends with Shiemi, but it doesn't matter. Shiemi still wants to be friends with her. And she also has really advanced summoning powers. So some exorcists have the ability to summon demons, and Shiemi does. Shiemi and Izumo have the ability to summon demons, but Izumo's are, like, more powerful. So then the class goes to train in the old dorm where Rin and Yukio are living, and this demon shows up, the ghoul shows up, and Rin fights it. That's about all that happens in this episode. It's really a setup for the next couple episodes, but what's important to remember, Izumo is introduced, and Rin fights a ghoul in the bathroom of the old dorm. Okay, episode 8 is called Now a Certain Man Was Sick, ... The ellipses are important. It's from the Bible. And it introduces Igor Neuhaus, pronounced Neuhaus. I think I'm saying it correctly. I apologize if I'm not. So Yukio goes away on a mission, and the class is again attacked by the same demon. The same demon shows up, and Rin learns that it was another exorcist teacher, Dr. Neuhaus, who sent the demon to test his powers as the son of Satan. He was really just trying to lure Rin into using his powers. That's that episode. It's mostly a long fight scene with a demon. It's pretty cool. Okay, episode 9 is called Memories. So Mephisto shows up, and he tells them that the ghoul attack was a test for the whole class to advance to the rank of X-Wire, which is like slightly higher than what they were currently, but it's still very low. They're still very much in training. And, however, it was actually Dr. Neuhaus was disobeying procedure when he was attacking Rin. He was not supposed to attack Rin with intent to kill. That was just him going crazy. But then Neuhaus says that Mephisto ordered him to attack Rin with intent to kill, so that he can train him as a weapon for the Knights of the True Cross to use against Satan. And then that night, Neuhaus attacks Rin in his sleep and just straight up attempts to kill him. This is no test, he just tries to stab him while he's asleep. And then he reveals that Satan killed his family on the Blue Night and he's seeking revenge on Rin. Then Rin and Yukio fight Neuhaus, And Rin basically has an existential crisis and questions, like, what it means for him to be the son of Satan and, like, how much Satan has actually hurt people, because he doesn't know that much about the Blue Knight, but, like, people died, and it was very bad, so he's upset about that. Episode 10 is called Black Cat, and it introduces Kuro, the mascot of the series, an excellent cat. We love Kuro in this house. So Rin and Yukio are called to fight a rampaging cat demon, who it turns out was Shiro Fujimoto's familiar who was left behind after he killed himself in order to protect Rin. So Rin bonds with Kuro over the love of his father, and Kuro becomes Rin's familiar. And Rin also learns that Father Fujimoto was what is called the Paladin, who is the top-ranking exorcist in the order. He is like the king of the exorcists. He is the #1 exorcist. Or he was. Now he's dead. There's a new #1 exorcist. We'll get there. But he learns that Father Fujimoto was not just a good exorcist, he was the top exorcist. Episode 11 is called Demon of the Deep Seas. This one is filler. They go to the beach and they fight a kraken. It's mostly a beach episode, but, you know, it's fun. Episode 12 is called A Game of Tag, and it introduces Amaimon and Shura Kurigakure, aka Boobs. She's got big old boobs. The X-Wires are sent on a mission to a haunted theme park, and while investigating, Rin is attacked by Amaimon, who is one of the 8 demon kings. So Amaimon is like a top shit demon. And he starts to basically steal his sword and taunt him, because if Rin opens the sword, he goes demon mode, even if it's not him who does it. So he's just playing around with the sword. And Rin starts losing hard. Like, Amaimon is just beating the shit out of him. And Rin just starts to, like, berserker mode on him. Rin basically has this berserker mode where he loses all control of his powers and just goes fucking crazy. Just goes wild on him. So he starts going nuts on him. He's brought back to his senses when Shiemi is in danger. Rin's mysterious classmate known as Yamada, is just this dude in a hoodie, takes off the hoodie to reveal that it's Shura Kurigakure, who is a very high-ranking exorcist. She steps in and drives off a Maimon. And then she also says that she was dispatched by the headquarters to investigate, basically Rin, to investigate suspicious goings-on at the Japan branch of the Knights of the True Cross. Okay, episode 13 is called Proof. This one is basically some big plot reveals from Shura, so it's gonna go a little hard on this. So basically, Shura takes Rin into custody as a potential threat and takes him to this impenetrable cell. Mephisto tells Shura that he plans to use Rin as a weapon against Satan, and he also says that Father Fujimoto knew about this plan to use him as a weapon and was, like, down with it. Then Shura tells Rin that Father Fujimoto rescued her and made her his apprentice before he died, and that before he died, Shiro asked Shura to train Rin to use a demon sword because Shura also has a demon sword. She's not a demon, there's just a demon in her sword. And then she basically says, however, you're a threat to humanity, you're a threat to the Order, and I have been authorized to kill you. So she fights Rin. While she's fighting Rin, like, Rin is losing, obviously, because Shura is very highly trained, but she's persuaded by his tenacity and resolve to avenge his father that she agrees to train him in sword fighting and use his demon powers. And then Shura is assigned to become a teacher at the Knights of the True Cross at the school, and Rin basically feels a renewed ambition to train. So now Shura is gonna train Rin. She was persuaded after they tried to fight. Episode 14 is called A Fun Camping Trip. It's the start of summer vacation, and the X-Wires are sent on a camping trip to test for field missions, basically. They're gonna do a test in this forest, and if they do well, they can start going on field missions. And so Rin reflects on his bonds with his classmates, and he's basically like, wow, this is the first time I've ever had any friends. This is kind of nice. He's really enjoying the vibe. Then night falls, and the class is sent out on the test, which is to survive for 3 days and retrieve some lanterns from this demon-infested forest. There are hella demons in this forest. But then Rin and his classmates decide to work together, and they assure each other that they will not have to face demons alone because an important rule of exorcism is to work as a team. So they decide to work as a team. That's what happens in this episode. Episode 15 is called Act of Kindness. So Amaimon shows up at the camp, and he kidnaps Shiemi. He brainwashes and kidnaps Shiemi. Very uncool. Rin tries to fight Amaimon without using his powers because all his classmates are there and they can see him. And Amaimon basically threatens to kill Rin's classmates. He comes so close to killing them that Rin is forced to draw his sword and reveal himself as a demon. He's got no other option. His classmates will die if he does not use his powers in front of them. So everyone is shocked. Everyone is like, oh my god, he's a demon. But then Rin is also, he's using his powers too much and he starts to go berserker crazy mode again. And then the episode ends with Rin going absolutely ham. Episode 16 is called The Wager. There's a little asterisk here that says, this episode sees the most manga to anime changes that are retcons in Kyoto Saga. I will tell you about the retcons coming up soon. This introduces Arthur August Angel, who is the current paladin. He is Shiro's replacement. He is now the #1 exorcist. So basically, Rin is rampaging after this battle with Amaimon. He is going crazy. He's threatening to harm his classmates, hurt himself, maybe destroy the whole forest. It is not good. But Shiemi is able to talk him down with the power of friendship. It's very beautiful. Then the current paladin Angel shows up, and he's like, oh, I gotta kill this guy. We can't have this kid around. He's dangerous. We're gonna kill him. Right before he's about to kill him, he receives a change in orders, and he takes Rin, Shura, and Mephisto to appear before the High Council and have a disciplinary hearing. Mephisto stands trial. While Mephisto is, like, explaining himself for all of his batshit behavior, Yukio is explaining Rin's situation to his classmates. And Mephisto tells the council that he plans to use Rin as a weapon against Satan, and they shouldn't execute him because he's their only chance to fight Satan. And then during this trial, Amaimon shows up again with just a big horde of demons, like 1 million demons. Mephisto convinces the council to let Rin fight him, and that's where the episode ends. So Rin is gonna fight Amaimon in front of the council. Okay, episode 17 is called Temptation. Rin's classmates basically decide that he's still their friend, even if he's a demon, and they come to the court to save him. Rin beats up Amaimon, and then the High Council is like, okay, you can be an exorcist on the condition that you pass the exorcist certification exam by the end of the year. That's very important. He's got to pass this exam like years before anyone else. So Rin comes back to school, but things are really strained with his classmates, especially Konokomaru and Ryuji. They are like not having it. They are like, we do not want the son of Satan around. We're not into this. And Rin begins really intense training with Yukio and Shura to master both sword fighting and his powers. That is everything from season 1 that is canon. Anything after this in season 1 does not exist. So, from here on out, we are entering the Kyoto Saga. Very quickly, some retcons. Things that have been changed between season 1 and Kyoto Saga. I would like to say that Kyoto Sagas are accurate to the manga. Basically, in season 1, when Rin goes to this trial and after he finishes rampaging in this forest, he's unconscious. In Kyoto Saga and the manga, he is conscious for these scenes, and instead of just fighting Amaimon, he also gives this very passionate speech about how he's not their savior, he's not the Demon King, he's not like a weapon, he's Okumura Rin, and he's his own person. It's very beautiful. And also, all of his friends are now mad at him again. I know in episode 16, they kind of off-screen decided they forgive him, but at the start of Kyoto Saga, they're mad at him again. They're very angry with Rin. They do not want him around. So now that we've got that out of the way, let me present to you Kyoto Saga Episode 1. Now, let me just warn you that these episode descriptions for Kyoto Saga are about to get way more dense because way more happens in all of these episodes. This season is way more plot dense. But I will do my best. So Rin, Yukio, and Shura head to the site of a demon attack, and Saburota Todo is there. Very important character introduction. Saburota Todo. And he says that the left eye of the Impure King was stolen from the Academy's vault, basically. And the eyes of the Impure King are these very powerful demonic relics that cannot be brought together. So they're chasing after the thief, and then Todo betrays them, revealing that he's actually after the eyes of the Impure King. It was a decoy, he's the thief. And he basically fights Yukio and leaves him really shaken. He is taunting Yukio. He's like fucking with Yukio's brain, okay? He is going crazy on Yukio, basically. It is not going good for Yukio. As you can see, he actually stabs himself in this scene because he's trying to administer medicine and he's too shaken up, so he just stabs himself with a syringe, very metal. So then the X-Wires and Shura, so that's Rin's classmates and Shura, are sent to Kyoto to investigate the right eye of the Impure King because the right eye is kept in Kyoto and the other eye was kept at the Order, but now it's gone. So they have to go to Kyoto to investigate the other eye. And while they're on the train to Kyoto, Rin is ignored by and fights with his classmates who are afraid and hurt by Rin's secrets. So they are now mad at him. This is a big retcon. When he gets on the train to Kyoto, all of his classmates are very angry with him. Shura explains that the eyes of the Impure King are powerful remains of an ancient demon, and when united, they will basically spread this giant plague that will wipe out a bunch of the city. Like, it will basically destroy Kyoto. Everyone in Kyoto will get sick with this demon plague and probably die. Episode 2 introduces Mamushi Hojo and Tatsuma Suguro. These are important characters. But the team arrives in Kyoto and they meet the Kyoto exorcists, including Shima and Ryuji's families, and they find that the Kyoto exorcists have really dwindling numbers because there's a disease spreading. Very bad. We do not like that. Rin meets Ryuji's father, the head monk of the temple, Tatsuma Suguro. Very, very important character. Suguro's dad seems to recognize Rin. Very interesting. And then he learns that Ryuji is fighting with his father. And the reason that he's fighting with his father is that Ryuji blames Tatsuma for failing as head monk and refusing to become an exorcist, and basically the temple is failing, and he thinks it's his dad's fault. So then Ryuji is told by the members of the Kyoto branch that they are being suspected of the theft of the eyes of the Impure King. So they think that the imposter is among them and has stolen, or is planning to steal, the eye of the Impure King. Also, Rin gets drunk in this episode. It's very goofy. I just think it's a funny scene. All right. Episode 3 is called Suspicion Will Raise Beasts. So the Kyoto sect basically has an Among Us emergency meeting where they are fighting over who they think is betraying the Kyoto sect. And they have a big fight about the suspected involvement of the theft, with suspicion ultimately being placed on Tatsuma, who's not in the meeting, as well as Mamushi. They think it might be Mamushi, or also Juzo. Juzo Shima is introduced in this episode. He's Shima's older brother, and he went to school with Mamushi, and when they were at school, their teacher was Todo, who, as we know, is evil. Also, he's voiced by Xander Mobus in the English dub. Very nice. Meanwhile, Shiemi is just going through it. Shiemi is having an emotional crisis. She's unable to summon her familiar, which means she's basically unable to fight. She's unable to do exorcist activities because she's too stressed out. And Rin is also training, and he has a nice heart-to-heart with Kanekamaru and Shima, and their relationship improves somewhat. Our episode 4 is called Act of Treachery. You guys are gonna have to bear with me because, like, a lot happens in this episode. This episode is really intense. So Ryuji investigates the Kyoto's Deep Keep, where he finds Juzo confronting Mamushi, who is attempting to steal the left eye. So the imposter was Mamushi. And Mamushi has basically been convinced by Todo, when he was her teacher, that the left eye has to be stolen in order to protect it from Mephisto, who is gonna misuse its power. So Todo is lying to her. But Mamushi believes that she's protecting the world by stealing the eye from the Order. After hearing about Mephisto's trial and that Rin was given the Koma Sword, which, this is important, the Koma Sword is actually the holiest relic of the Kyoto Temple. So she hears that Rin was given the Koma Sword, and Mamushi decided that Tatsuma is probably working with Satan, and she attempts to steal the eye, believing that she's saving Miyota from its corrupt leadership. So she believes that Tatsuma and Mephisto and all the leadership of Kyoto can't be trusted, and she has to take it upon herself to steal the eye. And then the higher-ups of the Kyoto branch are basically listening in on this conversation, and they're like, alright, it's over, we gotta take her into custody. And while Juzo and Mamushi are fighting, Todo shows up. Todo breaks in, and he steals the left eye, and he takes Mamushi, and they escape. So now Todo and Mamushi have the left eye. Ryuji is there. So Ryuji has this explosive fight with his dad. He is screaming and yelling at him because his dad refuses to explain the things that made Mamushi suspect him. So Ryuji is screaming and yelling at his dad. It is going very, very badly. And Rin is reminded of how he fought with his father right before his father died. So Rin has like a trauma flashback of when he was fighting with his father. So he intervenes in the fight, and he gets so emotional that he lights on fire and exposes his powers as the son of Satan. Everyone in the Kyoto leadership sees it, and Shura incapacitates Rin. She knocks him unconscious and takes him to prison. This episode is quite the ending. So yes, Rin is taken to this isolation cell in Kyoto, after exposing his powers to the higher-ups. Episode 5 is called Mysterious Connections, and a lot of this episode has a big flashback, so this is some backlog of lore. So Yukio arrives at Kyoto. He wasn't there previously. He arrives with a team of exorcists that are brought in to deal with the potential threat. Meanwhile, Mamoshi and Todo are on the run, and Mamoshi has taken the eye into her body and is suffering very bad effects. It's basically like degrading her body. And Tatsuma slips a letter to Shura for Shura to take to Rin, and she brings it to him in the cell, and they start reading the letter, and the letter basically begins to recount a flashback where 16 years ago, Shiro Fujimoto arrived at Kyoto and took the Koma sword, which was the holiest relic of the temple. So Fujimoto actually stole it from the temple 16 years ago, presumably for Rin. Episode 16, A Wolf in Sheep's Clothing. This introduces Karura. This one also extremely dense. This is like a page of plot I'm about to read to you guys. I apologize. I really tried to sum it up as best I could, but so much happens in this episode. So, Mamoshi and Todo arrive at this secret building deep in the mountain where only the high priest is allowed to enter. Meanwhile, Rin, Yukio, and Shura are still reading the letter, so they're still getting flashbacks, and they learn that hundreds of years ago, the Koma sword held a demon called Karura, whose flames were able to defeat the Impure King. And Tatsuma asked Shiro why he needed the sword, and Shiro answered that his superiors want to use it to kill a child. So that's important to remember. The sword was not stolen to help Rin, it was stolen to kill Rin when he was born. So ultimately, Shiro ends up helping the temple, and Tatsuma gave the sword to Shiro, and now they trust each other as friends. So Tatsuma and Shiro were actually friends. Then months later, Tatsuma's father, so Ryuji's grandfather, died, and he inherited the power of Karura, which has been secretly passed down, like, throughout the order of the High Priest. So the one condition for using Karura's powers is that no one other than the High Priest can know that Karura exists. So the secret that has been being kept from Ryuji that was making him so angry at his dad was actually what was fueling Karura's power. So it was really important that he kept it a secret. And Mamoshi and Todo go into the basement of this secret building, and they find that the Impure King was not defeated hundreds of years ago by Karura. It was just sealed, and it's now under the building. So it's still down there. It's still alive, the Impure King. Then Todo betrays Mamoshi. He's gonna, instead of taking the eyes to protect them and keep them away from each other, he's going to return the eyes to the Impure King, which will revive it and bring it back to life. And then Tatsuma shows up, and he fights against Todo using Karura's power. He's backed into a corner, so Todo uses the eyes to revive the Impure King, and it starts to reawaken. Then Tatsuma uses, like, so much power to seal the Impure King as it's awakening and keep it in this small state that he's really weak. And then Todo stabs him from behind and reveals that his plan all along was to revive the Impure King in order to draw out Tatsuma and Karura so that he can absorb Karura's powers. So he fucking eats Karura. He puts it in his mouth and eats it. Then Tatsuma concludes his letter by begging Rin to use the Koma sword to defeat the Impure King. Important takeaways from this episode. Todo has absorbed the power of Karura, the Impure King is now awake, Ryuji's father has been fucking stabbed on the mountain, and Rin needs to go fight. Episode 7, Like a Fire Burning Bright. This one is great. So Rin says he wants to help defeat the Impure King, and Shura agrees to give the Koma sword back to him, because remember, Shura was holding on to the Koma sword. And Rin finds that no matter how hard he tries, he actually can't draw the sword. It just will not open. And Shura basically deduces that Rin can't draw the sword because he lost control of his powers and now he's afraid of hurting someone. So he has like a mental block that means he cannot use his powers. He can't draw the sword at all. So Mephisto shows up, and he traps Rin in like a prison dimension, and he tells them that he's been sentenced to death for the second time. So Rin is now in an even more secure prison, like awaiting his execution. So Juzo brings Mamoshi back to the temple, and then he rallies every able-bodied exorcist there to head up the mountain and fight the Impure King, who is quickly growing. The Impure King is like the size of the mountain. It is using the mountain itself as its vessel, so it is the size of a mountain that they have to fight. Shura meets up with Rin's classmates, and they tells Ryuji the situation and gives him the Koma sword. So Ryuji has the Koma sword now, and he's going to bring it to Rin, and the whole class basically goes to jailbreak Rin from this interdimensional prison. So this prison has like a curse where if you harbor hostile intent, you can't enter. So because Shiemi doesn't harbor any hostile intent at all, she's like the most innocent, pure queen, she's allowed to enter the prison dimension, and she finds Rin. And Rin is straight up going through it in this prison dimension, okay? He is like screaming, crying, sobbing. He thinks he's a monster, he's unforgivable, he's gonna hurt everyone who loves him. Like, he is suicidal, and Rin is like ready to die. Rin is like, I do not deserve to live. But Shiemi gives him a really passionate speech about how he's not alone and he has his friends to support him and all of that anime stuff. He snaps out of it, and they bust out of jail. And then Rin makes up with Ryuji, who gives him the Koma sword, and Ryuji says he was never mad at Rin because he's the son of Satan. He was mad at Rin because he was carrying the burden alone. That's so beautiful. We love Rin and Ryuji. And then they head up the mountain to fight the Impure King together, like If You Cried. Episode 8 is called From Father to Son. So the priests summon the fire demon Uchusma, I think I'm saying that incorrectly, but that's how I spelled it, Uchusma, to hold off the Impure King. And the X-Wires find Tatsuma. He's barely alive on the mountains, and he tells them that they can defeat the Impure King by hitting it in the heart before it can spread its disease, destroying Kyoto. Tatsuma is way too weak to form a barrier needed to hold it, so Karura, who's been reborn after having its power absorbed by Todo, because Karura is basically a phoenix, so Karura comes back in this very small, weak form, but still alive. Karura transfers its power to Ryuji because he's the next in the bloodline of High Priest, so Ryuji is gonna make the barrier. And then Ryuji has to head up the mountain so that he can get near the Impure King's heart and cast the barrier, and Rin goes with him, and the other two split off from the group, who are basically gonna go take Tatsuma down the mountain to get medical help. Meanwhile, Yukio encounters Todo, who is taunting him emotionally. Remember, Todo is inside Yukio's head. Todo is messing with Yukio's mind, so things are going really badly for Yukio. Episode 9 is really intense. Episode 9 is called Through Thick and Thin. So Yukio is still fighting Todo, who's taunting him so hard that he admits that he harbors feeling of resentment and hatred towards Rin. But he says he doesn't hate his brother as much as he hates himself. Yukio is the most mentally ill motherfucker ever. But that's really important to remember. Yukio is just wallowing in self-hatred constantly. Todo has Yukio pinned down, but before he can kill him, this mysterious blue fire appears in his eyes, and it startles Todo so much that he gets distracted, and Juzo and his team show up and attack him. Meanwhile, Rin, Kuro, and Ryuji are making their last stand on the mountain, where Ryuji places the barrier, and then Rin fights off the demon's invasion, but he's just fighting with, like, his fists. He still can't use the sword. And the other X-Fires are coming down the mountain. Izumo and Shiemi form a bond, and Shima comes to accept his responsibilities to his friends and family. So the other characters have some plot development as well. Unbowed and Unbroken. Yukio, Juzo, and his team fight off Todo by combining their powers and overloading his body, but he survives. Todo basically has this immortality because he's absorbed the power of the Phoenix, so Todo literally cannot be killed. Rin and Ryuji have a really heartfelt talk where they agree to survive this and go home together. They declare their friendship, and Ryuji finally says that he's going to believe in Rin, and because of that, Rin overcomes his mental block and he draws his sword to protect Ryuji. It's so beautiful. They're in love. Episode 11 is called Shine as Bright as the Sun. Shura arrives at the top of the mountain and she takes over protecting Ryuji so that Rin can head to the core of the Impure King and strike its heart. The effort of sustaining the barrier, it gets to be too much for Ryuji, and he loses consciousness, so the barrier falls. Then Todo tells Yukio that he has, quote, piqued his interest, and continues to taunt him with this demonic nature. He keeps telling Yukio that he has the potential to fall to the side of demons. This is very important. He refuses to tell Yukio his true plan, and he escapes, barely alive, but he will definitely be back because remember, he can regenerate infinitely. So Uchusma appears before Rin and offers to let Rin use his powers in order to defeat the Impure King. However, Uchusma's technique basically would amplify Rin's flames, and it would incinerate everything and everyone on the mountain. So like hundreds of exorcists basically would die if Rin did this. And Rin promises to himself that he will be able to control his powers, and he does the ritual anyway. So he starts doing the ritual, and he feels himself basically being overwhelmed by the power of flame and overcome by his demonic nature. He starts going berserker mode, but he remembers the trust he's earned from his friends. He remembers the power of friendship. He comes back to his senses, and he controls his power so well that he cleanses the Impure King from the mountain, and he leaves all of his friends and exorcists unharmed with impeccable control. So now his confidence is renewed after saving Kyoto, and Rin tells Yukio and his friends that he's decided to embrace his powers and identity as a demon and as the son of Satan, and accept both parts of himself. Alright, episode 12 is basically a recap. This is the end. We made it to the end. Oh my fucking god. This is essentially a wrap-up episode for Kyoto Saga, but it does hint at some important upcoming stuff, so I'm gonna talk about it. Shura questions Mephisto, and she's like, what is your plan? What is your motive for Rin and his classmates? And Mephisto hints that he knows something about Shura that she's been keeping a secret. So, foreshadowing there. Rin is officially absolved of his death sentence, so that's good. Also, Mamushi the imposter and Based Juzo get engaged. It's just fun. Good for them. Good for them. They're in love. The class is basically given a day off to explore Kyoto, and they go sightseeing. It's very cute, very fun. Rin and Yukio have a heart-to-heart, promising that they'll always look out for each other, even as in the final moments of the season, Yukio admits to himself that he still harbors resentment towards Rin, and he still really hates himself. So Yukio is going through it. And that's it for Kyoto Saga. So, here's what we know about Season 3. First of all, it has not yet been referred to as Season 3. It's been referred to as Blue Exorcist Animation Project, which prompted some people to think it's a reboot, but then we've been confirmed from a voice actor picture that it's called Illuminati Saga. If you've read the manga, you know about the Illuminati. And countdown is on because at Aniplex Online Fest 2023 on September 10th, they will be announcing more information about the Blue Exorcist anime project. Also, we have this promotional image, which is quite nice. So what's next for Season 3? I've made a little chart. Here are some important questions you should be thinking about as you go into Season 3. What were Todo's true intentions, and who does he work for? What is the mysterious power in Yukio's eyes? What are Mephisto's true intentions, and what is Shura hiding? These are important. And then these are basically just themes I want you to be thinking about, okay? Just think about these, stew on these a little bit. We want to talk about Rin's journey of self-acceptance versus Yukio's perpetual self-hatred. Rin's need to prove himself to his friends and the other exorcists, and also Rin and Yukio's relationship. This is going to be the most important stuff. Alright, here's one thing I want you guys to focus on. Here are some characters who are about to become so important in Season 3. I want you guys to focus on Shima, Izumo, Todo, Yukio, and a mystery man who was not even in the anime, but he will be there. Thank you for watching! Oh my goodness, this was such a quest. This presentation took me weeks to make. I'm so excited. I really hope that if you do decide to watch Blue Exorcist Season 3, that this was a helpful refresher or guide to help you get into the series. I highly recommend reading the manga. Also, you should definitely watch the anime for yourself. Watching this is definitely not a replacement for watching the anime. The anime has lots of great nuanced moments I was not able to cover, but that is the general plot. So now you know everything you need to know in order to go into Blue Exorcist Season 3! Yay! Oh my god, I can't believe we're living in the timeline where Season 3 is real! Woo! This was so much work! Oh my god.